What happens when an Emmy-winning TV host, known for making people laugh, makes it his life mission to help communities build happier, more resilient workplaces? Today's guest brings lessons from comedy, near-death clarity, and 400 cities worth of business stories to show us how improv, purpose, and wellness drive real results from the green room to the boardroom with a touch of AI and technology. If you're leading a team, building a business, or exploring how to implement AI and culture shifting tools in a human-centric way, this episode is your roadmap.
Welcome to the Events Demystified podcast, where we demystify the world of in-person, virtual, and hybrid events, AV production, and AI technology by sharing practical tips, tricks, and strategies to help your event succeed. This podcast is brought to you by Treefan Events, a woman-owned boutique event production agency that caters to event professionals, small business owners, and entrepreneurs. We specialize in AV and AI education, integration, automation, and implementation, all based on our Fit for Events framework, which focuses on futuristic AV production, innovative AI technology, thriving audiences, and empowering behind-the-scenes teams. And I'm your host, Anka Platon Treefan, with over 2 decades of hands-on experience in event production, event management, and now AI technologies and cybersecurity.
Welcome back to Events Demystified podcast, the podcast that unpacks the future of events, leadership, and technology through the lens of empathy, strategy, and systems that actually work. I'm your host, Anka Platon Treefan, founder of Treefan Event Production and Fractional AI Strategies, helping event teams, agencies, and creatives implement tech that makes sense for people first. Now, today I am joined by a legend in his own right. Mark DeCarlo is an Emmy-winning comedian, former host of Taste of America, the voice behind Hugh Neutron, and now creator of the powerful Business is Improv workshops designed to make corporate wellness actionable. And without further ado, we're going to welcome our guest to the show, and we're going to talk about so much more, touching into AI and technology as well. Mark has been working on something amazing, and I can't wait to dive straight into that. So welcome our guest to the show.
Hey, Anka, how are you?
Welcome to the show, Mark. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I like that opening. I'm going to have to get myself a little W flag that I could wave during all my interviews.
I know, right? That was the hashtag you said. I'm like, we need that flag now. I love it. Well, Mark, thank you so much for making yourself available and joining me on the show. And I usually like to start those conversations with a little bit of an icebreaker. So
Okay,
let's get straight into it, okay? So what's one thing that people would be surprised to learn about working in comedy that totally applies to working in, for example, corporate environments?
Great question. They say the most prevalent fear of humans cross-culturally is speaking in public, getting up on a stage and talking. I've been doing that since I was in 6th grade. I feel sometimes more natural on stage than in real life. And I think the reason people are afraid of it is because they think they'll say something and
I don't know, the audience will start laughing or pointing fingers.
It doesn't matter. The most useless human emotion is fear. And when you focus that fear on speaking or raising your hand in a meeting to interject an idea or ask a good question, if fear stops you from doing that, you're hurting yourself. It makes no sense. I've been doing comedy since before college. I've done stand-up. I graduated from Second City and I do improv. And the worst thing that's ever happened to me is I say something that I think is funny and there's no laughs at all. And you know what? You survive. It's not a big deal.
Right.
And
you've done enough of those to be kind of like, well, it's just part of the process.
Exactly. Well, especially if you're doing stand-up. All stand-up material typically is a written bit that you memorize and then it's like doing a monologue. So if you deliver that monologue 10 times and 8 times people laugh at the joke about the duck, the 2 times they don't, it's either because you didn't deliver it correctly or because they're idiots. Either way, it doesn't matter. You'll do it better next time. And in my entertainment career, you audition for 10, 20 things before you get a job. At least I've learned to take the rejection not as a rejection of me, but a rejection of whatever I just did for the last 5 minutes. And you know what? Fine. I don't need everyone to love me.
I like that. I think it's a mindset shift. So I was actually internalizing a little bit of this because, yes, one of my biggest fears has been public speaking. And I think it's because I was thrown into it before I was ready, right? I grew up in this religious environment and we were going to church, and my parents would literally send me to the front of the congregation to sing a song or recite a poem that I was supposed to memorize by heart. And I remember one time I was probably 7, and I was so like frozen the moment I saw all these eyes looking at me. Every bit of everything that I memorized just like disappeared. And I still remember the sensation that I had, how there was this heat rising
Yes, it's
on my
awful.
chest, into my neck, turning my face like fire and my brain mush, and I couldn't muster one word from there on. So that experience actually just carried on with me like for the rest of like my teenage years. And I was like, I will never ever stand in front of people to do that again. But then in my professional career, I needed to do that, and I needed to learn how to overcome that fear, because you're right, like fear can be one of those things that can totally just freeze you.
Not can be,
It will.
always,
It will, right?
always,
Like,
always.
right.
Caution is good. Fear, always bad.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you get that fright or flight, right? And the whole thing is just like everything that you thought you knew, it's gone. And I think for me, what really, really helped, especially in the beginning, was actually podcasting. I'm doing it in a safe environment, controlled environment. I'm also doing it virtually. So there is no audience, even though I know there's an audience, but nobody's looking with 1,000 million eyes. And me, even though like there's definitely an audience, right?
Yeah,
And
let's
that
hope.
really helped overcome, like for anyone that's, I feel like it's struggling, that's kind of been my biggest help. I'm curious, do you have any other tips that you can give that might have helped you or others that had to kind of overcome this fear?
Yeah, well, first of all, you just given an example of why fear is stupid. You blanked as a 7-year-old, and now you're running a hugely successful company. There are no consequences. If you are a brain surgeon and you screw up, there's consequences.
Yes.
But if you're making a presentation or you're telling a joke or you're doing comedy or you're in a meeting with the people on your team and you make a mistake, you know what? Acknowledge it and go, you know what? That was probably stupid. What I really think is a better idea. And you go forward. There's no, the shame and the fear that people subject themselves to because they think other people are going to think it, it's pointless. If I'm leading a workshop or delivering a keynote, I am completely confident in what I have to say has value to the people in the room. Now, if you're not paying attention to me, that's your choice. But I know that if you're paying attention and if you're present, you'll get something out of what I have to say. And like you were talking about the confidence, that's where the confidence comes from. It's like, listen, I know what I'm saying is good. You can take it or leave it. I don't really care. I hope that you absorb it and use it as a tool to further your personal and professional life. But it's that confidence. You walk out on stage, you plant your feet, and understand that everybody in the audience desperately wants you to be good. They're there. It's 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning and you're opening up a session in Orlando somewhere. They don't particularly want to be there, but since they're there, they want you to be good.
Yeah.
You have them on your side from the beginning. All you have to do is be yourself, be comfortable being yourself, and know that being yourself and delivering your message is enough.
Yeah. I'm wondering if some of that fear comes also from, as I was thinking about it, like how you go through teenage years, high school, all that drama, and that embarrassment has some bigger implications, or so you think, in
Right.
that
So you
moment in
think.
life. Yeah.
Right.
Because, oh my gosh, now I'm not going to be the cool kid. Or, oh my gosh, if I mess it up, now the entire school will laugh at me and I'm going to get a nickname. And all these implications that in the moment, they're huge. Like I'm navigating that with my son, right? But as you grow and you're an adult, it's like, oh, that was so stupid. Like, I don't understand why I was like so hard on myself, why I was trying so hard to impress everyone and live up to their expectations when this is my life, right? But I think it's kind of that type of fear. Like in front of this audience, they come to see you. And like you said, they want you to be providing value and you're frozen because you're thinking of something stupid. What if they don't like me? What if what I say doesn't land? Or what if whatever, all these what ifs. And I remember going through my bodybuilding competitions and only a mad person would literally go through this process where they put themselves in a situation in a skimpy bikini on a stage in front of strangers to be judged on every single thing on this physique that you work so hard for. If you do that once, I promise you, never in your life anybody's gonna touch you, because you kind of like go through that. And that experience is kind of like going through fire. You're forged through fire, because now you're like, if I've done that one crazy thing, I mean, what else could it be so much worse than that? Like literally,
Exactly. That's
there's
what I'm
people
talking
that
about.
have no business in my life, but they get to say whether or not I present well enough, right? So for me, that's been one of those, like one thing that a process that I went through, put myself through totally out of comfort, just to grow out of that fear of being in front of people. Because at this point, I'm like, if that didn't scare me and scatter me, then nothing else would. Like, what else could happen? Like you said, sure, I mess up. Sure, I mispronounce it. Like one time I was saying something like session, and the feedback on the form came like, every time you say that word, it sounds like Saxon or something. I'm like, what the hell? Like, really? That was the one thing that you picked from my session. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I was in high school and I had a near-death experience. I almost died when I was a junior. I was also 250 pounds. I was this big, fat, slobby kid. And one day I woke up, I was in my ICU bed, and the thought that popped into my head was, I am never going to have a date unless I get in shape. So
So you're almost dead. You're now alive.
Exactly.
And that's the
Right.
one thing that goes through your mind.
Well, I was 16. Yes. And that was what's motivated me. And I had tried diets in the past, always quietly, not letting anyone know. This time I decided, all right, that didn't work. I'm going to try it differently. I told everybody I'm going to lose 80 pounds by my birthday in June. Told my friends at school, told my family, told everybody. And then I started reducing my intake and running with the girls' track team after school because I couldn't keep up with the boys. And in 6 months, I lost 80 pounds. And the confidence that I gained from being able to do that process, it's not 3 days.
No,
it's
it's
6 months of, it's like you're bodybuilding, right? It's
Right.
focused training and you can't fudge it.
Oh,
If you're
yeah.
3 pounds over, you're 3 pounds over. That confidence, I think, has convinced me subconsciously and consciously that anything I decide to do, I'm going to accomplish one way
my
or
gosh.
another.
I feel like you're speaking my language, Mark.
Well,
This
yeah,
is
but
so
that's
good,
the
so good.
key. Everyone, not everybody. Here's my whole thing is life is short. We're all going to be dead in 70, 80 years. Everybody. So none of the little things matter. What matters is, are you happy? What were you doing the last time you were happy? How can you do more of that thing in your daily life? If you hate your job, get another one, because the 6 months you waste doing this job you hate is 6 months you don't get back. So you have to have the courage to understand what makes you happy and pursue it. Now, what makes me happy is I play ice hockey and I play ping pong with my friends and I do comedy. I'm sure you have different things that make you happy. People need to find out and spend time with themselves going, what do I like? What don't I like? And I
Here's one of
think
the challenge
it's
that I feel
easier
like
now than it used to be because of the internet and everything. You could be exposed to more things. But if you're not doing what you said, getting forcibly out of your comfort zone to try something, you'll never grow. And you try it, you could have hated bodybuilding. And then you know what? You don't do it and you go build yourself a bookshelf.
And I love that. But here's the challenge that I feel like I'm having right now. I listen with my son, right? Like I'm really trying so hard for him to find something that he likes aside from Minecraft.
How old is he?
Video game. He's 12. And just like I see this generation of new kids, right? Like they are unhappy, they're depressed, all this stuff that I feel like we had some level of it that we went through, especially through high school and whatnot. But I don't think it was at that level. Like I always pursued something, like you said, that would fulfill me. And that's something that I'm trying to nurture in him. Like find something that you really enjoy. What is it that would make you happy? And 100% I'll support you in that.
Mhm.
How do people or how does this younger generation, do you think, could get there? Because I think this is kind of like one of those diseases that mentally affects our generation, and it's so hard to figure out what would give you the spark. I mean, obviously social media, comparison, all those things play into it, but I feel like as 40 something year old that I lived a really full life, and I'm one of those people that I tried every single thing until I found something that I really liked, and nothing was like, oh, I'll try it once. If I don't like it, I don't like it, but I'll give it a try versus no, I'm not trying. It's not for me. I'm like, just give it some time. Like give it a choice.
Right.
Give it, right?
Yeah.
What would your advice be? What would your tips be? I mean, you've lived a full life as well. You've done a lot in your career and gone through so many different things.
A lot of
ups and
different
downs.
things. Yeah. I always follow what interests me. And you can't really describe what I do as one thing. It's a bunch of different things because a lot of things interest me. I think, especially with kids, I don't think they understand that that is even an option to like stop and consider what makes me happy. No one thinks anymore. I walk around and I see people walking on the street. They always have their earbuds in. They have their headphones in. They're talking on the phone. When I was 12, there wasn't shit to do. I would ride my bike and you'd talk to your friends, or you'd sit and you'd think.
I know. It's like,
And you can't
I'm
think.
bored. I'm like, great. That's a great thing to do.
Right,
To
do
be
something about it.
okay to be bored actually once in a while.
Right.
Like,
Well, it forces you to think. I live by the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles, and I walked to a movie theater last night and I walked back home. And I talked to some strangers, and it gives you time to actually think. So I think step one is realize I'm not really happy. I think I could be happier. Step two, understand that the pharmaceutical industry and the world at large has made big business out of telling you you're depressed and here, take a pill. And everyone's depressed, so it's cool. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I'm not a doctor. I think the key is, number one, understand that if you're not happy, there's something you can do about it. The thing you do about it is sit around and think, when was the last time I was happy? What was I doing? Oh, I was riding my bike. I was playing baseball. I was talking to my friend Joe. Whatever the thing is, I was bowling. Although bowling depresses me for some reason. I don't know why. Whatever it is, go do more of that, and then do something that's sort of adjacent to that. And the best thing you could do is do something and hate it, right? I hate being on boats. Every 5 years, I try it again. It's not for me. So it's like, I'm not going to waste my time buying a boat.
you need to remind yourself why you don't like it.
Right. Well, my father-in-law loves boats. My wife loves boats. They like to go fishing. And so every once in a while I'll go with them, and I'm either puking over the side or just miserable. Now they don't even ask me. They just go and I sit on the shore. But I know that about myself because I've tried a bunch of different things. So once you decide you're not as happy as you want to be, start investigating things that possibly could make you happy, and do what you did with your bodybuilding. Get out of your comfort zone, because just like in weightlifting, you know how weightlifting works? You lift something heavy, it rips the muscle fibers in your body, tears them, makes them bleed. They get bigger and stronger, and you can lift more weight next time by getting
Even
out
that
of the comfort.
you give it some nutrition and recovery time.
Right. But you're feeding it, right? But it all starts with getting out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Ripping yourself away from whatever feels comfortable and going out and trying something new. And oh my God, I like it. In sixth grade, I got to do a pageant about government, and I did a John F. Kennedy impersonation as a sixth grader, and it was funny and I liked it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do more of that. And I've been on stage ever since because I enjoy it, and I enjoy the people that I meet doing it. And this is a formula that can apply to anybody. Doesn't matter what your job is, whether you're a CEO or a person who parks cars for a living. Everybody has a valuable contribution to make to society. And my Aunt Cookie used to say, not everybody could be a fireman. So find your jam, find your thing, find your bliss, find your purpose, and then lean into it. And then lean into the things that are adjacent to it, and you'll be happier.
I love it. Now, you speak about, and often you speak about how wellness creates financial, personal, and social ROI. But I think there's also ROE, right? What does that tangibly look like in the leaders, companies, organizations that you work with?
Well, if you are not happy, you're not going to perform well. I know people that hate their jobs, but go to their jobs every day because they're making a lot of money. So they wake up and they're 40 years old and they're rich and miserable and divorced and have no friends, but they got a lot of money. What they did 10 years ago is they decided to build their life around money because they thought money made them happy. And I'm sure there are some people in the world where money does make them happy. I don't understand that. I mean, I want to have a lot of money so that I can do things, not just to have a lot of money.
Money as an enabler, not money as just for the sake of money. Yeah.
So if you're miserable, if you're not happy, everything in your life is degraded. Your relationships are degraded. Your professional aspirations and chances for advancement are degraded. Whereas if you are happy and feel listened to, and you're comfortable enough at work to raise your hand in a meeting and be the one dissenting vote out of 15 people around the table saying, you know what, I don't think that's the right way to go because I work in the loading dock. And if we did that, it would increase our costs and would slow us down and we'd probably make more mistakes. What if we did this instead? There's an organizational chart. And oftentimes, most of the time, the people at the top of the organizational chart have no idea what the day-to-day responsibilities in life are for the people lower on the chart. So if you are lower on the chart, part of your responsibility is to find a way to communicate to those above you what you know, whatever institutional knowledge you have. And it's the job of the leaders to make an environment, to create a system where even the littlest voice can be heard and appreciated and valued. Now, I'm not saying that every idea the guy in the loading dock has is going to be great, but if you crap on everything he says, the one time he does have a good idea, he's going to be too ashamed to say it, and you're screwing yourself out of value. So by investing in your employees' wellness and happiness, you are quite literally increasing your profitability. You ever talk to someone that works at Costco?
I did give them the card when I walk in.
They all love their jobs. In-N-Out Burger. Do you have In-N-Out Burgers in Boise?
Yes, we do now. Yes. I don't get to taste it. I can just smell it, but yes.
Go in and talk to the people that work there. Their kids, they're older people. They all love their jobs because their companies give a crap about them.
Yeah.
And make them feel valued. I mean, it works in interpersonal relationships too. If you're dating someone or you're friends with someone and they don't give a crap about your opinions or whatever, pretty soon you're not going to be friends with them.
Yeah. I want to plug in a little bit. There's actually this work that's being done by Janice Cardinali. I don't know if you know her. She is the founder of Event Minds Matter, and she's really, really trying to push more of psychological safety training for leaders, not just the event space, but in the business space, because it goes right into what you just said, giving the leaders the tools and understanding and awareness how to create this psychological safe environment for someone that's in a lower position in a different type of role to be able to raise their hand and not fear some kind of whatever that might be, rebuke,
mocking,
exactly. Yeah.
God, you're stupid. Why would you say that? You're an idiot. You're just a dumb woman. Be quiet.
Yeah, financial repercussions that come with raising your hand and saying your thoughts on a certain matter. And I think that's so important in organizations, no matter the fabric of them. And you definitely made a really good point there, because there has to be some kind of level setting so everyone has a voice. But I don't think it always happens. And unfortunately, we have a long way to come and a long way to go.
That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. doing. And
Yes,
that's also
I
where my
want
improv training comes into play.
That's what I want to touch on next, because you talk about business is improv. And I want to hear from you, what are some of the core takeaways and how can this kind of training improve not just the team culture, but communication, creativity, all the things?
Well, let's start with the word improvisation or improv. People hear that, and non-performers, non-improvisers, even actors who don't improv, they hear it and they're terrified. Oh my God, going on stage and not knowing what you're going to say. Oh, I could never do it. We're 10, 15 minutes into this interview. It's all been improvised, right?
Very much so.
But the way improv works on stage and in life is you talk to someone and then you listen to what they say. And then based on what they say, you formulate your next utterance. That is all improv is. The difference when you're doing it on stage is, instead of improvising as Mark in a podcast, I'm improvising as a plumber with a wooden leg and I'm going for laughs. But it's all about listening and understanding the situation. So the shows we used to do at Second City were 3 acts. The first 2 acts were scripted short sketches like you see on SNL. Then at the end of the second act, we'd say, all right, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Give us a bunch of suggestions, and we're going to come back and we're going to improvise scenes based on those suggestions. And people would shout out, pickles, ice cream, garbage man, sewer, whatever. And we'd have a long, big pad of paper. We'd go in the back, 6, 7 of us, whatever. We'd sit around a table and we go, who's got an idea? And someone would say something, and it would either be great or horrible. If it was horrible, you would say, yes, but what if instead we did this? Or what if we added this? You never turned to someone and said, that's stupid, shut up. Because first of all, you've embarrassed them, you've shut them down. And now if they have a great idea 5 minutes from now, they're not going to say it. So you have to be open to people and take every idea. One of my favorite quotes is from Michelangelo, the painter and sculptor and famous Italian. Someone asked him, how did you make the David, this giant, beautiful statue, out of just a block of granite? And he said, it was easy. I just took away everything that wasn't the David. So every idea starts with a kernel of something, and you take away the crap until it's a good idea. Or, you know what? It's not a good idea. Let's focus on something else. And that process of ideation and creativity works in every phase of business. If you're on the loading dock, is there a better way to put these peanuts into the box and get them off the dock faster? If you're in the C-suite, is there a better way to forecast what we're going to be doing 2 quarters from now based on what we know and what we think we know and what our intuitions are? And 10 minds well managed will always be better than 1 in business. Always.
Absolutely. And so I think there's something to be said about when you put together some creatives. I always try to imagine what might have been on behind the scenes in the writing of The Office, right? Like all this goodness that came out of it. I'm always kind of jealous of like these people, the writers behind the show. They probably had so much fun that I'm actually kind of jealous of that. I FOMO with it.
Well, and a lot of those guys are from Second City. Steve Carell's Second City graduate, Kate Flannery's Second City, Craig Robinson, stand-up and improv. They're all improvisers. I don't know what the percentage is, but a certain amount of the material that you see on screen was something the actors improvised in the moment. And because their director and their writers gave them the freedom to do that, they were rewarded. I've been on shows where you're in a sitcom, and if you say and instead of they'll go, wait, Mark, it's supposed to be and they want it exactly as written.
So annoying.
Well, it's their show. They can do it however they want, but
but it kind of breaks the creative flow in a way, right?
It changes it. It tells you, don't be creative. Do what I want you to do and do that only. Personally, I think that's stupid because tape is cheap. Let me do something goofy, and if you don't like it, we'll do it another way. You do 10 takes. Exactly. I wrote and co-wrote and produced a film called Pinocchio and the Water of Life. It's an animated feature. It's coming out later this year. And for the actors in it, I hired famous voice actors who also are improvisers. So we've got Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob, Phil Lamar, great improviser, Fred Tatasciore, Rob Paulson, Mo LaMarche, Pinky and the Brain, the Hulk, big names in the cartoon world. And instead of doing what they do normally now on cartoons where you're recording one-on-one with the director on a screen. I had everybody in the same room doing the scenes all together. And 20%, 15% of the final cut of the movie is stuff that was improvised in the room. And that's a bonus. As a producer, that's a bonus for me. I'm paying you to be here to voice this stuff for the day. If you write 4 great jokes, I love it. I have no ego about you changing my precious words. I want it to be funny. And by giving everyone the creative space to at least pitch their ideas, I think it's incredibly beneficial to the enterprise as a whole. Because Mr. CEO or Miss CEO, you weren't a CEO 20 years ago. You were behind a desk or behind a computer. Your job is to find and hire good people who are on a trajectory to improve and develop, and you keep them in your business by keeping them happy. And it increases your retention. It reduces your cost of constantly retraining people. And you know what? It makes your daily life happier. And
Absolutely.
like I said, we're all going to be dead eventually. I mean, I know that's...
it's a good perspective to have, right?
It is, but it's true. As far as we know, this is one shot and you're done. There's no rehearsal. Yeah. You might as well enjoy the ride to the best of your ability. And if you can marry enjoyment and success and productivity together, which is what
a bit of humor,
people,
right? Like you want to have a little fun, right?
A lot of it.
I feel like there's so much to be said about how humor, fun, like lightheartedness helps, especially high stake, stressful jobs, roles, and professionals manage that type of pressure and boost morale and build sustainable leadership. From your experience, do you have any strategies that have helped other leaders to implement some of those tactics, or what advice would you give?
Yes. Number one, don't take yourself so seriously. You're making a 7-figure salary. That does not make you 7 figures better than everybody that you work with, right? You're successful. That doesn't mean you're a genius. It doesn't mean you can do everything yourself.
And in most cases, you haven't done it alone. Most likely there's been a team
of
people around you that has supported that along the way.
Unless you're Picasso or Michelangelo, unless you're a painter or sculptor, even those people have help. Your value and genius as a leader is building a great team around you. I've been on a lot of sitcoms. I was on Seinfeld one week. And what struck me about working on that show was, first of all, Larry and Jerry were the first guys there every day, the last guys to leave, constantly writing and rewriting. Normally, if you're on a sitcom and the leads are not in a scene that they're rehearsing, they're in their trailer texting or doing other things.
Do celebrity stuff.
Right. On Seinfeld, the first day we're rehearsing a scene, there were only 2 of the leads in the scene. The other 2 were sitting on chairs watching the scene and going, oh, wait, you know what? Julia, give the ball to Jason. Let Jason bounce the ball. And I think Jerry was the least funny person on his show by design. Not funny. The least weird person on his show. He was the central hub of the wheel that all the crazy people interacted with. Newman and Kramer and Julia and Jason, they were all nutty in their way. And Jerry was the everyman. Dick Van Dyke on the Dick Van Dyke Show Mary Tyler Moore was the everyman. And they built brilliant teams of performers around them. And that's why those shows will be funny and last forever.
And evergreen, yeah.
Right? So as a leader, what your job is to build your bench, build your team, and make your team feel appreciated. Now, that may sound like, new age, oh, everyone's got to love each other. And it's sort of that, but it's also, if you want to make more money, make everyone feel appreciated.
Yeah, and then there's
when you score, everybody feels like they own the success.
Yeah, but it's something to be said about you enjoy working with people that you like, people that are there to support you because you support them back. Isn't that so much more enjoyable than like trying to do something together as a team on a project and feeling like it's pulling hairs every single time, right?
People are sabotaging each other. And that only works if the people at the top don't know what's going on and don't create this culture of this improvisational culture of support and joy and wellness. And literally, it's the simplest thing in the world. If every time you have to make a decision, you ask yourself, will this make me happier or less happy? and you always choose, it'll make me happier, you'll have a happier life. Every idea, everything you are, you're a bodybuilder, you're a carpenter, you're a podcaster, you're an event producer. All those things, Anka, started as a little idea in your head one day. And you were like, oh, let me try that. And you've built this successful business. So everything that you do starts as an idea in your head. You might as well have good ideas. And you might as well understand that ideas and intention have power. Yeah. So ask yourself, I'm trying to lose weight. If I eat this whole pizza by myself, will it make me happier or less happy?
Will it help and support my goals?
Right. And if you can stick to that and go, you know what, it won't make me happier if my pants are tight tomorrow, so I'm not going to eat it.
But I feel like too many people fall prey to this instant gratification mindset.
Yes. And well, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's such a big problem in our society right now. I mean, like you said, your journey from being 200 something, young
250 pounds as a 12-year-old.
Yeah, that's insane. That's intense, right?
Yes, it was.
To then making that choice. And I think a lot of people come to this place until it hurts them so much that they don't have a choice but to change.
That's what happened to me.
How much easier and smarter would it be if somewhere along the way, when maybe you were 150, you're like, if I keep going this way, this is not a good place to keep going and get to where I want to be as a young adult. Like, will I get more dates if I'm like barely moving or anything like that, right? So making choices before it gets to the point where it's too late. Many times that wake up call is when you are in the hospital, you had a heart attack, something happened that it really, it's changing your life trajectory. Because if you don't, well, guess what? You can say goodbye to this lifestyle that you once had, right? So if people could only make that choice earlier. But here's where I want to pivot a little bit our conversation, because I mean, Mark, you've done so much in your life. You've done amazing things. And on top of everything else, wellness advocate, comedian, improv, producer, like you tell me what you host, what you haven't done. And I heard, because we were having this conversation prior to our recording, that you also started pushing hard into technology, innovation, AI. And I want to touch on that because it's been really the passion of the last 3 years of the direction I have taken my business as well. And it's been something very interesting to hear you talk about because it's different than anything I've heard. So I want you to give us a bit of a behind the curtain. What is happening? What brought this project on? And how is it deployed in real life?
Okay. And the story is also a perfect illustration of what I was talking about. What makes you happy? So a few years ago, I have hosted television shows as a host. I did a dating show. I did a big show on the Travel Channel where I interview people, civilians, and make funny things happen. I did that on a show in Chicago for 10 years. Yeah. It's what I'm good at, interviewing non-professional people and making it enjoyable to watch and to participate in. I also am a cartoon voice. Among others, I'm Hugh Neutron on the Jimmy Neutron Show. Here's our Band-Aid box. That's Jimmy. I keep my pens in there. So I love doing cartoons, cartoon voices and cartoon writing. And I love hosting television shows. So I thought, what if I could do both things at the same time and host a show as a cartoon? Now, when I started
a real-life cartoon.
A real-life cartoon. I started this 10 years ago and the technology was not possible. We did a couple of pilots and it didn't look quite right. And then during COVID, I hooked up with a technology genius who's also in the event and production space, who developed a system for doing motion capture animation, which is where you wear the suit and a camera on your face. You make the motions, a computer captures all of that, and then 9 months later, it renders it into, takes 9 months to do it because it's very detailed, renders it into a cartoon character, making the same movements and the facial movements. My partner, Julian, figured out a way to do that instantaneously live to air. So during COVID, we built a character named Bafo the Bear, and I started doing an hour a day live to YouTube of a celebrity talk show. I would zoom in celebrity friends and they'd be talking to a big blue bear. And it became really popular. We did 2 live events at the Comic-Con, which were hugely successful and really funny. A cartoon bear talking to a guy who does cartoon voices for a living and basically telling him, really, it's kind of cultural appropriation, what you're doing, don't you think? And the technology is now at a point where we can generate these feature quality Pixar plus animated characters that can talk to human beings live, on stage, on screen. You can shoot a sitcom in the same amount of time that it would take to shoot an all live action show. And it's going to be a paradigm shifting technology in the animation world. It's not AI, it's performance driven. You're starting to see instantaneous or almost live AI characters, but they're kind of flat and they're clearly cartoons. Our characters look real. The bear looks like he could be living in the real world, but he's a cartoon. We're doing a show with an alien that we're going to come out with probably by August, I would think, maybe July. So it's an interesting space also for the event space, because now if you want a cartoon or your company logo or your mascot to host your sales meeting, you can do that. And do you ever see that Coachella video of Tupac on stage jumping around? It's a similar technology to that, where you can have, you don't even need to be on a screen. You can be in a physical proscenium stage and have a cartoon talking to a human being face to face live, taking questions. We did this at Comic-Con. Bafo was taking questions from the audience live, and it blew people's minds and was the culmination of that original thought I had. Boy, I'm happy when I'm hosting shows. I'm happy when I'm doing cartoons. What if I could do them together? And it took me years and years and years to find a way to accomplish that goal. But it's so fun, and it will be incredibly profitable because no one else can do it. But it all started with me asking myself the question, what am I doing when I'm happy? And everybody could do that. But I don't think people give themselves permission or even know that that's a question they can ask themselves. They're just, well, this is where I work and I have a wife and 2 kids and I got to make money. And if I got to eat it 8 hours a day, I will. You don't have to eat it 8 hours a day. Figure out a better way to do it by just asking yourself that question. What makes me happy?
And isn't it there a saying that says that scarcity is the mother of innovation or something like that, where you put in a place like a hard place between a hard place and a rock or something like that? I always make those up. You basically are forced to then come up with a solution, a better solution, something innovative that will propel you forward. And like you said, I like those 2 things. How can we marry them? And honestly, many times I'm put like in this position myself. I'm asking myself the same question. Like, I really like AV production. I like AI technologies, and I also do bodybuilding. How can I marry those things into some kind of a product that's marketable and will make me happy, but also support someone else in their journey? Right. So like, I'm definitely experimenting and I'm trying different things, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, this is what makes me happy. And there's not another person that could do those things, because Anka is in the fabric of those things, because I'm passionate about those things. And I have done them together or separately at different parts in my life. Right.
And you're also brave enough to ask the question and then take action to find out the answer.
Exactly.
And that is why you're successful.
The ups and downs of trying to figure it out, because I'm sure that during this journey of 10 something years to come up with this prototype, it wasn't easy. Like, probably some people laughed to your face. Like, what are you talking about, Mark? Like, that is so.
They laughed. It was expensive. It was impossible. It didn't look right. There were a bunch of things, but I knew eventually when the computer technology
catch up with your thoughts.
Right. The issue is it's so much information in the pipeline that has to go back and forth. It's processing power. And now it's possible. When I was in college, I got invited. I go back to the Dick Van Dyke Show because it's one of my favorite shows. And I think it's a brilliant show. It was created and written by Carl Reiner, arguably one of the 5 funniest people of the 20th century in the English language. I'll fight anybody on that. It was a book launch for the Dick Van Dyke Show book. And the party was ending, and Carl Reiner was sitting by himself in the corner, and I had been too nervous to talk to him all day, and I finally screwed up the courage, and I went and I sat next to him, and I said, Mr. Reiner, I'm a huge fan. I want to be a writer. I want to be a comedy writer. What advice can you give me? And he said, write what you know. He was a writer on the Sid Caesar variety show, which was SNL back in the 50s. It was a live weekly sketch comedy show that was insane, crazy. And he was one of the main, I think he was the head writer. So he did that. That show ended. He was out of work. And he said, what do I know about? I know about writing a comedy television variety show. So he built the Dick Van Dyke Show around the universe that he knew. And his brilliant insights were to have comedy writers as part of the cast. So anything funny you think of in the writer's room, you can put on the screen. And that, again, he went back to, what do I like to do? Oh, I like to write comedy. I like to be on variety shows. I like to make television shows. I know all that. Let me write about that. Let me create something that is the confluence of all the things that I enjoy and make me happy. If you're making things from stuff that makes you irritated or angry or bitter, the product's going to be crap.
Yeah.
You might get lucky once. And more importantly, your life will be crap. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but we're all going to die. So you have to make the most of every
I'm debating, Mark, if I should call this episode, We're All Gonna Die.
I think it should. Well, but you know what? I think if you keep that idea in the forefront of your mind, not in a morbid way, but in a way, what is your most precious resource? Tell me.
That's a question to me right now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Time. I don't have enough of it.
Time. That's it. And that answer applies to every human being on this planet. Time. So even the phraseology that we use, I'm going to spend time doing this. Yes, you're spending time, you don't get it back. So you might as well spend time being happy.
Yeah.
There's no shame. Being happy as a goal, I don't think is anything but enlightened and good for you.
So I have something that I want to add to this because, for example, I love to spend time on things that fulfill me. But sometimes those things, they don't always make me happy. Like, give you an example. When I go and I deadlift 300 pounds or leg press 650 pounds, that does not make me happy. That makes me like really, really tired. And it's very hard, right? In the moment, it's hard. And yet it fulfills me because I go back again and again and again, and I do it again, right? So I don't know, this concept of happiness, like I feel like it can be sold so cheaply just through like some of the cultural information that we get.
But it's not real happiness.
Right. Like, what's happiness? Like, what is happiness?
Happiness is you looking in the mirror in your bikini and going, yeah, I did it. I hated doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pain in the ass, but look at what I did.
There's a few other things I would add to it, right? Like this fulfillment that you get, accomplishment, confidence, the feeling of doing something that really matters to you, that it really was uncomfortable in the process, but that once you got to the other side, you are so much better for it. Resilience, all of those things. I think there's like this, the way I think of happiness is kind of like a bucket of multiple things that fit inside versus, I'm so happy all the time, but I'm
that's a good point to make. I don't mean like happy. I mean all those things. It's a complex matrix of things that is different for every single individual, right? So job one is figuring out what your matrix is, what fulfills you, what makes you feel heard and productive. All those things they're under the umbrella of happiness as opposed to just being in a good mood.
Exactly. Or just faking that I'm happy for the sake
that's a good
of
distinction to make. That's a very important distinction to make.
Yeah, because I think too much of our culture is kind of preaching one way or another, and then wellness washing. Oh my gosh, let's not get into that, right? And there's so much conflicting information out there, and there's a TikTok expert on everything nowadays. And it's so confusing to people. Like, I remember being one of those people several years back where, like, just in the fitness journey that I was on, I was trying this and trying that and doing this and that and had literally no progress because everything that I was doing had no plan, no progressive overload, no nutrition attached to it, kind of like no strategy, basically, right? And a lot of people find themselves in that space when it comes to fitness, wellness, professional being, or even this desire of achieving happiness, and they don't really know what that is, right? And like you said, like going back inwards to be able to look at the things that you might have done in the past, or you might need to try to do as new things to discover. It's like a discovery journey, really. And many of us, I don't know about you, but like literally it took me like 40 years to get there, to really understand enough of myself to know what ticks me, what are the things that I want to do more of, and the things that don't serve me and I need to leave them behind, right?
And
So
what's under your happiness umbrella when you're 20,
might
the
not
elements
be.
will change when you're 40. So you
Absolutely.
constantly have to be surveying your inner self and challenging yourself with, is this still working for me? I've been single for 30 years and I go out every Friday night. Is that working? Do I want to do something different? Maybe should I stop drinking? Should I start getting in shape? All these things, that there's seasons to it all. But the one constant, two constants. First constant is change. Nothing ever stays the same. Second constant is ask yourself, what was the last thing you were doing when you were happy? When you noticed that you were happy, and then do more of it, and then expand out from that. Oh, I like weightlifting. Maybe I'll like Pilates. Maybe I'll like surfing, whatever that progression is, because when you stop challenging yourself, you stop changing. And when you stop changing, you're basically dead. You're waiting for your body to stop. And that's not how I want to live my life. I want to live my life. I think of a happiness sponge. And every day I want to squeeze as much happiness as I can out of every 24-day period. And that takes energy and thought and introspection, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. Now, as we're coming to a wrap here, I'm curious, any kinds of results that you want to share that you've seen in some of the teams that go through some of your programs, any aha moments that stand out, anything that is worth mentioning?
Yeah, my Lessons from the Road title comes from when I was working on the Travel Channel. I was in over 400 cities in America, dealing with huge corporations in Las Vegas, little mom and pop shops in Denton, Texas, or in all over the country. And every successful person follows. I've learned from all of those people to kind of formulate my worldview about happiness. The people that were the most successful were the most happy. Always, 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 always. So when I do workshops, for example, one thing I do is get teams together and help them with their communications, teach them improvisational techniques so that if they have to launch a new product or their sales are dropping or whatever, we figure out why that is. Typically, it's because people are information siloing things and they should be sharing because they're jealous or they're afraid they're going to get stabbed at the back because, oh, that wasn't your idea, it was my idea. That doesn't work. So you have to teach people the collaboration mindset that we sink or swim as a team, right? And if there's a problem person on the team, go talk to them and say, you know what, I think this is a problem. Let's try and work it out. And if you approach people in that fashion, typically things get better. So when I'm working with teams, I teach them better ways to communicate and ideate, and all based on my improvisational background. When I'm talking to leaders, I try to impress upon them the importance of them understanding all the different levels of their organizational chart, and more importantly, valuing everybody equally, right? You guys are getting paid more up here, but if these guys screw up, you're not going to get paid more. And if these people are miserable, if they're great and they're miserable doing their jobs, they're going to leave and you're going to hire someone who's not as good. So if you make everybody happy, wellness, I mean, 5 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes. It's like, who cares? If you're miserable at work, too bad. I'm giving you a paycheck. That doesn't serve the enterprise. What serves the enterprise is what Costco does and what In-N-Out does, and these small businesses that I saw do, where it's like a family, right? You're running a pizza joint in Pittsburgh, but everyone feels like it's a family. There's the Newport Rib Company here in California. A family started it 50 years ago, and people that are working there are not in their family, but they worked there 27, 30 years. Why? Because they take care of them in a real way. So by investing money in wellness and taking care of your people, you're doing two things as the leader. You're doing the nice, humane thing of helping people become more self-actualized and happier, but you're also making more money because those people are working harder for you and better for you. And they're not quitting. They're here Then you move them up and you move them up and you move them up, and you have all that institutional knowledge that stays in your company because they're happy and they feel a big part of the success. They feel valued. And when people feel valued, they're happy. It's a circle. And the solution is so amazingly simple to me to think of. It's more difficult to put into practice. But if, again, every time you ask yourself, is this going to make me happier or less happy, and you choose the happier, it works. You just have to be aware of what is going on in your business and where the problem areas are. And oftentimes the CEOs have no idea. So that's when I'm dealing with C-level people. That's my main thrust with them. And it's kind of difficult telling a guy that's making $20 million, dude, you're out of touch. You're not right. And you're not maximizing, you're not getting the most value out of everybody. And it's because you don't care. You don't think they're worth it. Whatever the reasons are, you're wrong. It's also difficult to tell someone that makes a lot of money or that you're wrong. And they're like, well, I'm rich and successful. How could I be wrong? You could be more successful. And more importantly, your people could be more successful, and you could reduce your quit rate, and you could increase your profitability and your productivity and your creativity. Every new creative idea, by definition, comes from something that wasn't there before. So if people are too afraid to throw in a way out of the box idea, you'll never hear it, right? Thomas Edison worked alone because some of the stuff he thought of was insane. Nikola Tesla, the stuff he thought of was insane. If those two guys were working in a corporate environment, we'd still be walking around with torches because their ideas, wait, you're going to make electricity and make something glow? Get out of here. You have to honestly want your people to thrive. And if you don't, you're a shitty leader.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for such a rich conversation. For anyone that wants to connect with you and learn more about your workshops, as well as this new innovative way of presenting yourself as a character, where can they do that?
They can check me out on my site, markdecarlospeaker.com. You can also follow me on Instagram. I'm Mark DeCarlo TV and Mark DeCarlo on the Twitter. But mostly all the good stuff is on the markdecarlospeaker.com site.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your brilliance. Thank you to our audience for tuning into Events Demystified podcast. And if this episode gave you new insights or made you feel seen or maybe change your perspective on things, then I recommend that you subscribe, share, and leave a review. And until next time, stay aligned, stay curious, and lead with heart. Thank you, Mark, so much.
Thank you, Anka. This was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Events Demystified podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with other professionals like yourself. If you're interested in learning more about TreeFan events, including our future AI education talks and workshops, or to see how we can support your next event, book a free 20-minute consultation through the link in the episode notes. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and social media for updates on future episodes, industry insights, AI news and tips, and more. And if you have any topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out.